Okay, so this is the second video that I'm going to record. I'm going to give you some tips. Highly recommended that you watch first this. This is the second section, and maybe this is the third section. Yeah. Here I'm not going to go into a lot of details because many of the information has been already done here. Here maybe you already saw that there was an example. Here I'm just going to go very quick to give you more tips for to try to write your letter of intent. Okay, so let's start. So again, I took this presentation from here, and first thing that I want to remind you that what is a letter of intent is a letter that is supposed to show motivation, the purpose of your application, and you're going to use it not only for graduate school, you're going to use it for many things. So they can have different titles, and you have to read, they have different names, I mean, sorry, and you have to read very careful your instructions to know what you want. Yeah, so some of them call it a statement of purpose, other ones letter of motivation, personal statement, or cover letters, and you will have to send many of these ones every time that you apply a job. Okay, so this is a good way to start thinking about that and training yourself for to start applying for jobs. So you will always have to have this letter of intent. And again, you have to be very careful that this is for an academic purpose. So I'm going to give you some tips so you avoid some of the common problems. So as you saw in all the examples that you on the previous videos, these are some topics that you will cover, yeah? But it doesn't mean that this should be the first paragraph or this one and this one the second one and this one will be the last paragraph. No, no, no. This is not like that. You just need to start making a list of all these things. Okay, what extracurricular activities I have done and that could be useful for my application. What are my abilities? So you can write it down and start thinking about, okay, for my program, what of the abilities that I have are good? What are my future and plans? Yeah, so you can start drafting them, some of those ideas. Not don't spend a lot of time just thinking about that and writing them, and see how everybody wrote, how other successful letter of intent uh, they capture all these ideas. Yeah. So if you're thinking that you should just go and sit and start writing like crazy and you will finish this in 10 minutes, maybe there are people that can do it like that and they're very efficient in doing that. If you have more time, what I would suggest is that you don't start writing, you start thinking. Yeah, so you start thinking and you start taking notes. Yeah, so the idea is I would suggest you think and you start taking notes in the same way that you start taking notes about your abilities and how they match with the program, and they don't have to be properly very stylistically, not even grammatically correct, just that you start having ideas. You need to start thinking about what is your career goal, what is your skills for to achieve those career goals, and what is unique about you. And this is important, especially for competitive applications. Yeah, this is important because if you see that somebody copy and paste, that is nothing unique. They will reject that one. So what you have to do is take the best letters and adapt it to you. Okay? And I don't mean changing synonyms. I'm saying maybe you will rewrite all the letter, but say, okay, I like the structure that they have. I like how they cover these points, and my example is different. Yeah, so be very careful and try to be unique, and that is important. Okay, so steps for writing your letter of intent. Again, remember that I suggest rather than sitting and writing, I suggest you to start thinking and taking notes and read examples and check all the information. And one thing when you start writing this is know your audience. Audience check or letters that they were that you were written in for the program that you're applying. Yeah. So how, in which type of examples they give, what type of information they include there. Yeah. It's very important that the type of language that you use don't be too informal, but don't make it too complicated. So be as clear with your goals and personality. Um, this is very important. You can be have the best application ever, but if you are not clear in the way that you write, this could be a problem. So, for example, I don't speak English as a first language. For in my case, I have many people that edit and help me to write this. Yeah. And this is not only for international students. You should do it and look for your friends that are good writers that give you a look, and be ready for to be criticized and to rewrite the letter. Sometimes is a good idea, instead of uh, spending money and applying to many universities. Sometimes it's better to apply to few, that somebody give you corrections, and you do that. And again, as if you watch uh, the previous videos, remember that we find many. They send us many of these letters, and many times are the same. So this is a good way to, or are plagiarized. This is a good way to reject a letter. If you find that somebody is writing away and right away lying and plagiarizing something, that is a way to remove those letters. And again, I have read letters that are exactly the same. So be very careful with that. Don't make those mistakes. Uh, Something important is that you know the institution. Yeah. Yeah. So what they give you in the instructions, we need this type of students, or so be very careful with instructions and know a little bit about the institution. In some schools, and depending on the program, they said they want that you talk about one of the professors. If you are going to go to a graduate school doing a master, and they require that that you have to develop a research project so it's very important that you say this professor worked in this, and I'm very interested because I X and Y reason. You can read some examples. In some cases, and you're not going to develop a research project, so that doesn't have to be included, but you should know if you include something about the institution, it shows that you did your homework and you're not copy and pasting, yeah, the information. So that could be important. Again, be to the point and be unique. As I said, don't copy and paste. Just read the other ones and adapt it and put your examples. So that will be the best way, and ask other people to help you to write it. Okay, style and tone, and this is very important for international students, that we are careful with that. But at the same time, with your native speaker, yeah, that doesn't mean that you writing is perfect. It means that you are a little bit ahead, but you should ask the best writers that help you to rewrite it, and point the mistakes and see other examples, as I said. So check the sentence structure, the vocabulary, and the tense. Yeah. So let me show you some examples. So first thing, I want that you compare these ideas and compare these ideas. Yeah. Clearly, this is not the way that you have to communicate, and this will be a more effective way to do it. Yeah. So what they are trying to test is how good writer you are, because it means how good students you will be. If you're a good writer, it means that you have spent a lot of time doing your homework. Yeah. So that is what they are trying to get from there. And at least in for this letter of intent for grad school, for job application, they are trying to see how much you did your homework knowing the company. So this is important, and that again you did your homework and you know what is the language that you should use. So this, if you write like this, it shows that you didn't do your homework. If you copy and paste the idea, it means that you are going to do the same thing when you get into this school. And if this is a competitive program, they are not going to accept it. So remember, very important, the tone that you use and the style, and you can improve your style looking at other letters, seeing my examples, but not copy and pasting. Again, if you want to make a super stellar letter of intent, I recommend you to have many examples. And when you see many examples, you will see that there are sentences that appear a lot. Yeah, this, you can see that people is copy and pasting a lot of those examples. And what I suggest you is the good letters, they not only have those examples, but they have support for those sentences. Yeah, in some cases, for example, if you write, I really want to study to at this university, many people they just change the name here of the university, and that's all. Yeah, it's very important that if you apply to many schools, you change the name of the university. But this sentence is not only informal to casual, but there is no supporting information. And if as remember, these people read this, you have to read many of these letters, so you just get tired and say, okay, this person took this sentence from one place, and this person took that sentence from another place, because it doesn't come from the letter. It seems that came from nowhere. There is no support from those ideas. So I know that it could sound fancy, but the idea is that you have clear statements and that you support those statements, and not that you have that you avoid those cliches. Although you think that it looks good when you read them, many of them, they don't actually make a lot of sense in your letter. Okay, so I told you that the first thing that you need to do is to find many sources. That you shouldn't. I don't think that you should start writing. You should start reading a lot. Then you start thinking and drafting, yeah, ideas, and then you get a good structure. And then when you have all these ideas and all this, you can start writing. And then when you start writing later, it's not that you finish in 10 minutes and you submit that. Later, you just have to edit a lot, and it's a good idea to send it to somebody else to check, edit for content, structure, and style. You should have to do for these three things. Okay. So good luck with those things. Let me talk a little bit more about that. So one of the reasons why I suggest that you don't start writing right away, but you start doing your homework first, is because, for example, you have to, instead of spending hours writing the wrong thing, you think, and you can, for example, check this editing checklist, these questions, and see, okay, how well I'm answering these questions, and are those questions important? So that is a good idea to read all these questions. These are 8 more questions that you should be careful. Yeah, you say like, okay, is my letter of intent very good or not, based on do I answer this question properly? Okay, and now to finish, uh, try to avoid some of these words if you don't have a support. Yeah, for example, if you say education is very important, this is a statement that everybody knows, but the idea is not that they say that that education is important. Um, is that later you say how you want to support that, and why this is why this is something that is relevant for this for your letter. And remember, don't use these words 10 times in the essay. You should have many synonyms and things like that. And check these are the most used words, and some of the time they don't sound uh, relevant to the essay if they are not used in the right way. So be very careful with those ones. They are some of the common mistakes if they are not supported properly. And to finish, again, I took this from this presentation, and here there are more reference. Good luck with your reference letter, and if you want that I read it, just send it to me and send it with time, so I can spend more time and check very carefully. Good luck. I know it's stressful, but I'm sure that you have a lot of resources now, and if you have any questions, just let me know.